So if you're someone that's ever, gotten yourself out of debt, or maybe you're in the process of working your way towards becoming debt free, then you know it requires a lot of sacrifice, right? Even for myself, like, as someone who's had $30,000 of debt twice in their life, that process of getting out of debt requires a lot of commitment, a lot of sacrifice, and being intentional about getting out of debt. Right, it's more of a duty. You gotta put things aside. Say, okay, I can't go out. I can't, do the fun things that I want to do if I'm serious about cleaning up my credit or get rid of this debt. But for a lot of people, they struggle with this type of commitment, right? They struggle with this type of sacrifice, and they'll find they'll find all different types of excuses for why, they don't find themselves, committed to actually getting out of debt. So in this video, I have a young woman who's not, who has debt, who has actually $30,000 of debt, but doesn't want to put in the time, the commitment, and the sacrifice to actually get out of debt. And you'll hear some of the excuses that she has on why. So I'm just gonna play the video, and then I'll give my comment on it.
I recently went viral for having $30,000 in credit card debt, and it even got picked up by Newsweek. There was an article featuring my credit card debt. And throughout the comments, a lot of people have been recommending different, financial gurus. And of course, people have been recommending Dave Ramsey. So here is why I do not subscribe to Dave Ramsey's snowball effect and his approach in general. So for starters, the entire premise of his plan hinges on having extra money to put towards. So you pay off everything. You pay your bills, you pay all your credit cards, you pay all your debts, and then any extra money you have, stop right there. Who the has extra money? So then he's like, aha, yes, if you don't have extra money, get a second job, get a third job, eat rice and beans. That's actually something I joined a Dave Ramsey private Facebook group. People all the time reference rice and beans, rice and beans.
So when he talks about rice and beans, he doesn't literally mean, just stick on rice and beans. What he's saying is you just got to be more conscious when it comes to your spending, right? Instead of, going out to restaurants and eating, make sure to eat at home. Okay. It's more so it's just being more conscious of how you're spending money, because when it comes to managing money, it really is simple. It's math, right? It's spend less, make more, and then find a way to live within those margins, right? And you'll be pretty much fine, right? As long as you're spending less and hopefully, trying to increase your income as a time, and you spend within those means, you should be okay. Okay. And for a lot of people, and we understand, like, when you're struggling when it comes to your finances, like it sounds simple with the math, but really, like, when it comes to how people manage money, psychology has to do with it as well. Because you wonder why people are in the mess they are when it comes to spending. Of course, it's a spending problem, but why are they doing it? Right? And if you really ask them and you talk to people and find out the reasons why they're doing it, it doesn't make sense to you, but in their mind, it makes sense. But when he's talking about rice and beans, he doesn't mean just literally rice and beans. Just more so, just be more conscious of your spending. And me as a West Indian boy, I love rice and beans, so I don't got no problem with that. But he doesn't literally mean just rice and beans. Just be more conscientious when it comes to your spending. So let's let her continue.
I'm sorry. I'm not willing to do anything to get out of debt. I'm not willing to eat rice and beans every day. I'm not willing to have 3 jobs and not spend time with my children. I'm not willing to forego my favorite salad on a Friday when I feel like getting one. My bills and my debt is so tremendous that $20 here, $100 there is not making an impact. The cost of living and low wages is to blame for the financial woes of most Americans. And being told that we can incrementally make these big differences if we just give up our quality of life for 5-10 years is absurd. I turned my $30,000 in credit card loans into a loan consolidation with an 8% interest rate. We're paying about $1,500 a month to pay that off. And it's painful because every month I'm like, wow, what could we have done with that $1,500? But I am not willing to eat rice and beans. I am not willing to have a night job. My mental health and my quality of life is more important to me than paying off that debt. And that doesn't make me a bad person.
No, it just makes you an irresponsible person. Look, when it comes to, all right, she said a lot of things, right? Like when it comes to Dave Ramsey, right? I'm not saying I agree with everything he says, but his system works, right? And when I hear people go against Dave Ramsey, like I said, I don't agree with everything he says, but when I usually hear people that go against Dave Ramsey's, obviously his system, it tends to be people that don't want to be accountable for their actions, right? They don't want to actually put in the sacrifice that it's going to take and actually to get rid of that debt. Because you hear what she says. She talks about how she has 3 kids and she wants to live her life, right? So that's, for me personally, that's an excuse, right? That's an excuse not to actually tackle the debt. Okay. And I know a lot of people may disagree with that, but it is, because my question is, like, when you got that debt, that $30,000 debt, what was your reasoning for that? I bet you use that same excuse that I got 3 kids and I'm going to live my life. Okay. So you use these excuses as a reason to continue with your bad spending habits, because if you really wanted to, tackle that debt, you could. Right? If you want to say, you know what, we're going to do the work and put in the work and the sacrifice in order to pay down this debt, to get rid of this debt, you would, but you choose not to. One, because it's difficult, and you say, you know what, I don't really want to have to sacrifice 5-10 years of my life in order to get this, even though I think you could pay that down quicker if you really wanted to, and you're not willing to get a second, third job, whatever, that'll probably allow you to pay it faster than that. But for me, when I hear that, I see that as an excuse, as a way to say, you know what, I can't do it because I have 3 kids and, I want to live my life. So I'm going to continue. I'm not going to put in that sacrifice there to pay that debt. But you had no problem spending that money. Okay. And she also uses the economy and low wages as a reason for why she's in $30,000 of debt. Now, this is not to disregard the fact that this economy is tough on a lot of people and it's a hardship. However, there are plenty of people that's living in this economy that are figuring out how to manage living in this economy without racking up piles of debt. Okay, so don't use that as an excuse. I think what this economy did was increase the speed at which your debt accumulated because you had poor spending habits. Okay, that's what it is. It exacerbated the whole you're poor when it comes to how you manage your money. It just made things worse, and it sped up that process. But to use the economy and low wages as a reason for why you can't live the life you want to live, or why you have that $30,000 of debt, no, it's because you made choices when it comes to spending. And when I listen to her, there's zero accountability. Okay, there's zero accountability. Right? It's always something else. There's always another reason for why you're struggling financially, right? It's never your fault, the individual. Okay, whether you're using your children or you want to live your life or you're using the economy, it's always some external. And I've always gone by the thought that you can't solve a problem that you don't own, right? If you cannot solve a problem that you never own. Right, because if I'm going to if I have a problem, if I never own that problem, it's impossible to solve, right? Because it's something external that's causing that problem, as opposed to, you know what, whatever that problem is, I'm taking ownership of that problem. Because if I take ownership of that problem, more than likely I can find a way to figure out or solve that problem. But for a lot of people, it's always something external. It's always something else, or something outside of their control is the reason why they're in the situation that they're in. When in reality, her spending problem is because she spent too much money. Right? $30,000 of debt is not something that happens overnight. I know that firsthand. I've done it twice. It's not something that happens overnight. That is a process over time. Okay? And to say, oh, you know what, Dave Ramsey, his methods are too strict. Well, of course it's strict, because in order to get up out your situation, it requires very strict measures. This is not something where you could just, not be intentional about it and it goes away. You have to have a lot of discipline, because $30,000 is a lot of money, right? You racked up a $30,000 debt because you made choices when it comes to how you spend money. And we all have done that. We've all been there. Right? But it's important to make sure you're accountable for those actions, because in order to solve that problem, you have to be accountable and you have to take ownership of that problem. But for her, she's come up with a lot of excuses. And look, I'm not trying to be hard on her. It's just the reality. Like, when I'm just hearing her speak, and it's just that it's always something else. It's I want to live my life. I have 3 children, or the economy. No, it's you. It's you, the individual. And if you continue with that mentality, you always find yourself in that financial situation. So those are my thoughts. Interested to hear your thoughts on it. Make sure to leave a comment down below, hit the like button, share, and if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe. All right, so guys, take care and have a good one. Later.